Okay, we've got Gebben standing by. Not only is he standing by, he's right there right now. Gebben, how are you, pal?
I'm doing well. How about you, James?
Yeah, I'm doing good. So you've seen the interviews. Give us a little input from your point of view on the U.S. Open.
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate David Radulovic because, I mean, he shot outstanding. And I was actually leading the U.S. Open by one over him going into the last day, and he was able to turn it on to a different level than anybody else was that weekend. So I want to congratulate him and also say hi to Andy. Andy was actually like my first coach for about a year. So
I didn't know
anyway, I'm real close to those two guys that were just on. So anyway, getting back to the U.S. Open itself, I thought overall it was a good event. They could have improved on a few things, but I'm sure we'll get into that in a few minutes.
Yeah, I understand. So you shot well, though. I mean, you've been shooting well, so it came a little bit of a surprise to you probably that David came winging in right at the end, but you were shooting well.
Well, Dave was actually on target behind me going into the last day, and I mean, I've been shooting well for the last few months, although this is honestly the first major championship that I've shot in that I've been leading, especially leading going into the last day. So I felt nerves that I haven't felt in a while. I hadn't felt nerves like this in probably about a year going into the last day. So, I was a little bit on new ground, and so I ended up. Actually, Scott Robertson and I were both tied going to the last day, 5 birds down, and we both kind of slipped up a little bit and finished with the same score. But David, I mean, having that confidence that he was talking about, going home and relaxing his mind at night was just a huge thing that I honestly had a little bit of trouble with that last day because it was on ground that I haven't been on before. Although David hadn't either, so he just did a little bit better than everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I know that it probably surprised a lot of people in sporting clays how well David has been doing. I don't think it was any surprise that he's been shooting well, but I think it came as a surprise that he actually pulled off something as large as the U.S. Open, because you, for instance, have had a lot more experience, as well as Andy and many, many others, and we all know that when you go to an event like the U.S. Open, this is not your local shoot club. I mean, you now have to really sharpen your stick, and so this is a lot of tension for a guy who's 16 years old, and he kind of pulled that off. You got to give credit where credit is due, as Rachel Parsons tells me.
For sure.
So, what did you think? What did you think of the U.S. Open yourself?
Well, the venue is probably my favorite place to go besides Fossil Point in Texas. Elk Creek just has unbelievable terrain. Andy was talking about it a little bit. I think he used the term they have terrain in buckets. It's kind of funny, but anyway, they have the most unbelievable terrain in the entire country. So as far as the entire shoot goes, I mean, I would say they did a good job. Having some experience running a couple of tournaments myself, I would have kind of done a couple things a little bit different. Maybe had a water truck going a little bit more, spending a little more time with the little things as far as making sure all the water bottles on the course were full and stuff. But that's not something that the average shooter notices or looks at. It's just I kind of happen to have a little bit of experience running a couple of tournaments here in Arizona, and so as a part range owner, you kind of notice things like that. But anyway, I thought overall the
Gebben, let me ask you the big question. Here's the one that I'm going to discuss with you, because you've been on the show a couple of times, and I think I can just ask you this question. I was a little concerned because there wasn't a shoot-off, and there were a lot of similar scores there. So maybe you can kind of help me through that. Why am I uncomfortable with that?
Well, a lot of people are uncomfortable with it, honestly. for third overall, there was 6 people that tied with 187s. And those 6 people, every single one of them are past champions, all really, really good shooters. I think 5 out of the 6 people have all been on first team All-American. And I'm not sure why there wasn't a shoot-off. At every single tournament I've been to in my entire life, there's been a shoot-off for at least first place in every class.
Right.
And, whether it's E-class or Master class, I think if you tie for first place, there should be a shoot-off. And so, this was third place overall, which went down to first place in Master class. And, no shoot-off there. I think maybe ruffled some feathers.
Yeah,
and
I do know, Gebben, that there was a rule that was within the rule book of the U.S. Open that said that if there had to be a shoot-off, they were going to pick particular stations and do it that way rather than do an actual shoot-off. Now, I've been told that. I didn't actually see it, but I've been told that. But I also know that in that same rule book, isn't there also a clause that says that ultimately it's the option of whoever's producing the shoot to either do it by station or really have a shoot-off? Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're exactly right. Although when the U.S. Open bid is submitted to the advisory council and they all vote on it, the advisory council has the authority to kind of look over all of the elements of that particular tournament, and shoot-offs is one of them that may or may not have gotten overlooked. I think it probably got overlooked this time. And, Elk Creek, they may not have realized that shoot-off for first place in any class is pretty important to the shooters. But, the station tiebreakers aren't always the best, but I guess without having a shoot-off, it's the fairest way to do it. So
Gebben, I could probably, and I'm not sure I'm going to totally jump on board with this thought, but I could probably understand it if we were talking about any other class, and maybe for efficiency purposes that would be the way to go. But if you look at the names, if you look at the names of the people who had similar scores, if you had had a shoot-off with those people, you'd have had a crowd talking about it for 6 months.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, there's those 6 names up there were just, like I said, 6 of the top shooters in the whole world.
Well, I didn't run the shoot. They did it the way, that was probably the only criticism that I personally had. And I'm sorry that it wasn't done differently, but I don't know what took place there. There could be some other things involved in this. Yeah. But from my point of view, I think they missed a golden opportunity to have a shoot-off with some of the best guys out there. And that's just my personal opinion. Gary, I know that you're listening to the show. It's nothing personal. It's just my personal opinion. And I think Gebben and probably at least 6 other people agree with me.
Right. Well, and like I said before, though, they did an all-around excellent job with making this happen. A U.S. Open isn't the easiest thing to put on, and all in all, it was a good shoot. It was fun, and the targets were pretty much how U.S. Open targets should be. So
yeah. Okay, Gebben, I have a question here on the chat room though, and there's some. Are you giving instructions?
Yes.
And how would they reach you?
Either by email at gebbenmiles@aol.com, or my phone number is 520-406-5100.